Okay, hi. In my previous video, part one of Madonna movie story, I ended with having come back from CNN. My job there as a teleprompter operator hadn't lasted as long as I wanted it to. I got this. I opened up this letter from Creative Artists Agency saying it's my screenplay project, my Madonna screenplay project was not something they were interested in at the time. So that's when I went back to watching TV and watching film. This is in the era, at least in my case, of VCRs, watching movies over and over and really trying to catch what the structure was like. I knew screenplay structure, but I wanted to understand the pacing and the structure of telling a story. And that's critical. I don't know how many people actually understand that. It's very difficult to, I find, to explain to somebody because anybody who's not involved in film, I don't know how much they really know about film professionally. So anyway, I picked up more and more, and I wanted a mentor, and I knew this is a really good story, and I wanted to improve it, and it was worth all the themes were rich. Sometimes I like to explain what those themes are. I don't know if this story would see the light of day. I started an ebook about it, but I figured making these YouTube videos would get my message out faster. So you can really tell that my Toastmasters skills have lagged a bit. But anyway, so I I contact around 2010, something like that, about 10 years after, 10 years later. Just it in and of itself was an embarrassing long time. I went on LinkedIn and I got in touch with somebody who had written scripts, and her advertisement there was something like have an idea to be made into a movie, and she was also an actress. Hire me as I can't remember the term, but like when you ghost write, essentially a ghost writing thing, something like that. I just wanted a partner with some experience in screenwriting, and I also wanted somebody just to talk back and forth with about my ideas, because usually I would just be in my room just writing alone, and that's not conducive to writing. So we spent about a year, and I was paying her like every week for her work. I would send her what I wanted in the screenplay, and she would write it up. And at the end, it didn't pan out. The script that I got wasn't up to the quality that I had wanted. And that was about I remember New Year's Eve. I just read her email, and she said, if you want to continue working on it, here's the contract, and then therefore I'd have to keep paying her more money, and I just backed out of that, and I figured I'll do something else. I'll work with something else, and then I discovered it was probably New Year's Eve going to 2012, and then somewhere in the spring I discovered this great, amazing theory called Dramatica. It's a computer software program, plus there's a theory behind it. Let me explain how I discovered it. There was a blog. Well, first of all, I borrowed the movie, and it wasn't Interstellar. I can't remember the name of the movie. It was the movie where I think it's Leonardo DiCaprio plays somebody who can, with some technology, can go inside somebody's dreams, and he's trying to trick a businessman into making a decision, and there's an actress there. At the time, her name was Ellen Page, if I have the right actress in mind. Um, she's now an actor, but anyway. So I had just seen that movie, and that hit on some themes very clearly that I wanted in my movie. So I went online to read more about people talking about those themes. Then I discovered this person's blog, and he was a user of this theory, and he's a member of the users group. They meet every month. They've been meeting since like 93 or 94, and they would watch a movie, and then I'll get into that in a moment, but his blog was taking a movie and then explaining some aspect of the Dramatica theory, using that as an example. And it was very informative, and me being the scholar, I wanted to know everything I could about this theory. So in a short time, I bought the software. At first, everything was so open about the theory and the how it worked. So I figured maybe I could just take notes. So I started writing out all the notes and kept them carefully organized and stapled. But I figured, well, because it's interactive, in other words, you make certain choices in the program, and then it alters the rest of it. It alters and reconfigures the data. So it's best, I realized, just to buy the program. It was like $200. But that's a great investment, and I still think that was a great investment. It took a long time to actually understand the theory itself, because despite me studying and taking notes and having a good sharp mind and memory, they weren't explaining the theory in deep explanation. They weren't revealing a lot about the theory itself. It was very vague, despite all the forums and talk on other screenwriting forums. And there was a blog website, and there was another website, and so forth. And one of the co-creators of the theory had her own YouTube channel. She still does. She was explaining some of the theory, but it takes a lot of piecing all these things together, and I just needed to learn how to apply the theory as a screenwriter rather than somebody analyzing a movie. There are two ways of using Dramatica. One way is analyzing a film that's already been produced, and another is applying it in order to create the film. The other co-creator of the theory described it one time as a cake. You can enjoy the cake, but try and figure out the recipe based on your experience tasting that cake. It's a whole different experience. That's like what Dramatica is. You can enjoy a film, but actually try and figure out how the film was put together based on just watching the film. That's a whole different experience. Anyway, that did help me. That was in 2012 when I started, and over time I just kept working at it, and I still haven't, unfortunately, I still haven't produced a film out of it. I sent Madonna a few more letters some years back. I think the last one may have been 2017, and I figured that would be the last letter, and I'll just let it. I mentioned everything I wanted to. She was interested in Kabbalah for a while, and here I'm Jewish and attracted to her, and she was interested in. She got into the Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles, and I figured, man, If you really want to know Kabbalah, here I'll show you authentic actual Kabbalah. I know the alphabet. I know the, and because Kabbalah actually worked in several themes, a lot of themes in the screenplay itself. Let me tell you another thing about why the screenplay has been taking so long. That first 1998 screenplay was called Manhattan Masquerade. It was simply a story, a screwball comedy where somebody like me who's like a nobody just bumps into Madonna, and then she's on her way to, she has to get out of New York to film the music video for Material Girl. And in real life, of course, that's where she met Sean Penn, and the two would get married sometime later. But at this point, she's trying to get there, and there are delays and funny distractions there's funny confusion. And later on, I had seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I thought that's something like the vibe that I was going for, the gist I was going for. There are two characters who are sent on a simple task. Actually, one of them has a simple task to get to somewhere soon, and he just gets pulled off course and pulled off course. One of my favorite movies when I began watching screwball comedies is a movie called Bringing Up Baby, and I had that in mind. Only I'd switched the genders. In the movie, David is like a bookworm, kind of. I guess people would call a nerd or a stuff. I don't want to say stuffy, but just he needs to loosen up. And he bumps into Susan, who's very loose and very chaotic. And then by the end of the story, her influence on him has loosened him up and seen that he doesn't want to marry his fiancée. And then the two of them connect together. They don't get married, but at the end of the story, basically they're together. So I had in mind something like that, where I couldn't have the two of them get married, but like Madonna and this character, because that's not the way it happened in real life. But I just wanted him to have an influence on her. So let me continue in part 2, or I'm sorry, part 3.